Greetings everyone, this is TimeRider. Let me start by saying that I don't think this car actually exists. I researched it for quite a while, and including the GM Heritage site. My research, I found a few ads for a Nova Sedan delivery. Each was a one-off aftermarket creation. So I don't think this is actually a car, but it's nicely done. I also admit that beyond a cursory understanding that the X-Men were somehow extraordinary, I couldn't tell you if they were good guys or bad guys, and frankly, I don't care. That said, I have no issue taking them off the side of this really great casting that Paul picked, so stick around. So like I said, I thought it was a really good casting. It's one of those ones that has a metal base, which is cool. Anybody who doesn't say something about the weird paint that they got on this thing, I swear, it was a pain. Held together, pretty standard, couple of posts. You know, the Nova itself came with a 4 and a 6 cylinder. Originally it never came with a V8 from the factory. They introduced it later, but initially it was intended to compete with the Ford Falcon, of course. Yeah, Paul picked a really nice one here. I hope he has a chance to finish his. I'd be curious to see what he did. Now, when I got this thing apart, you know, the first thing I thought of was, oh, somebody made a pickup truck out of this. But then, you know, I figured out later it was, you know what, I bet it was just like, it was like a station wagon. They were modeling it after the Nomad, which is, uses the Impala as a platform. There was a really weird hump on the front of the hood. Never saw one of those on a car before, but I'm almost done with my airplane stripper. I got a different brand of stripper that I'm going to be trying. I don't know if it's going to be better or worse. We'll see. So like I had said, the paint on this was really weird. It was like they painted it and then they put like plastic shrink wrap on it and covered the entire model with the plastic shrink wrap, which had the tampo. And for some reason, wherever the tampo was, that plastic was incredibly resilient. The paint itself was actually pretty resilient. And this, you know, is actually not the first Hot Wheels that I encountered that has this kind of a finish on it. A lot of their superhero stuff does. Some of their advertising stuff does. Must be a fairly inexpensive process to put these on here. That's the only thing I can figure. I mean, you know, Mattel's a business. But the wire wheel got rid of a lot of it and, you know, kind of pick at the remaining pieces of the tampo, and they would chip off, and underneath it, of course, was green paint. That unaffected by the stripper. And then remember I said there was like a hump on the front of the hood, and it looked weird to me. So the first thing I am getting rid of is the hump. The casting was actually really well done. And by that I mean I didn't have to do a great deal of filing on it. These wheels are going to come off. I don't care about the axles. I'm going to use them on another project another day. I kind of have a direction that I want to go with this, and it's probably not a direction that most people would choose, but it's the direction I'm going. They're like real riders. So what I need is I need a wheel, just a skinny wheel to do what I want to do here. And this is a part of an M2 set. I bought these M2s that came with 3 sets of wheels. And now comes the job of filing. See, I want to reset the height on this thing because it's kind of a low rider right now. So what I'm going to try to do is file these channels out a little bit so that it rides a little more like it did when it was a stock vehicle. And of course, gotta drill out those posts, right? So 1/16 inch Milwaukee drill bit. I get asked that a lot. There we go, transport graphics with the Anderson Oiler. The 2-56 tap. And I'm going to put a screw in it because I got to put it back together at some point, right? So now that I got all them damn tampos off, I can get serious about getting this casting ready for paint. And for me, that always starts with a wire wheel. There was a little bit of light filing that needed to be done. More almost like a deburring process than anything. There wasn't any really big, obvious casting lines like so many castings have these days. Well, and those days too. This was a really nice casting though. Yep, just took the edges off, and I worked on this little point here actually quite a bit because I wanted it to look good. Real fine sandpaper here. Just doing that final shaping. And then some steel wool, right? 4/0 steel wool. And then, as always, I'm going to polish it. And I cleaned it, of course, with lacquer thinner. I always do. Get all the polish off of it. Put it into a set of helping hands and use some Duplicolor white. I really wanted to go a different direction with this. I mean, it would be really easy to just hot rod this thing, but I just thought it might be interesting to try to take it back to the way it was. Or actually, maybe what I should say is the way it would have been if they actually made the doggone thing. I could see this being a valuable tool for, you know, for a business because it was probably incredibly efficient to operate. And the project, I'll be completely straight up, it started with a set of decals, you know. So, and I'll get to that in a minute. These are just, they look like, you know, rims without hubcaps. But I wanted them to be the same color as the vehicle. And in case you're wondering, yeah, this is what I often call Lesney Fred Got Lucky Last Night Yellow. It's yellow, lemon yellow, Tamiya lemon yellow with just a hint of some red in it. And then somebody had asked me about baking. All I did, I bought a little Black & Decker oven. I try to run it at about 170 degrees. And acrylics, I'll typically bake for 20 minutes. Spectraflames, I'll do those a couple of hours. My intention was to keep it simple with the interior. I'm going to paint it red with a white shoulder stripe. A lot of the old GMs had vinyl seats, and they weren't particularly elaborate. So these decals, I bought them from Black Square Decal, and they were listed as being for a 25A Bedford van, and I had one of those, but I did it in the Au Naturel Dunlop tire version. And so I had these decals, and when I was looking for, I kind of had an idea in my head of what I wanted to do with this thing, and so I just started looking through the decals, and when I came upon this set of decals, I just thought that they were perfect. Yeah, that decal wrapped around the back of that thing really ticked me off. Sometimes when that happens, about all you can do is just float it and let it just come off completely, instead of trying to get it off the back of the cardboard. And if you can get it off, you get enough water on the decal surface, you can get it straightened out. So let's just pop back for a second to where we started with this kind of a mild pastel green X-Men Nova panel lowrider. I don't know why it seems like all of these are lowriders nowadays, the ones that have real riders on them. It's unfortunate. But at any rate, let's take a look where I wound up. As the man down under would say, I'm happy with that. I can just see it driving down the road, picking up bags of film from the local drugstores to bring it to the developing facility. Hey, be sure to visit the Three Blind Mice channel. I'll have a link below, and you can go view all of our partners this month and see what they did with the Nova panel. And of course, we wish Paul well after his near-death experience. I'm kidding, Paul. I'm kidding. So there'll be an episode of The Bench after this. This is TimeRider. I'll leave the light on for you. Hey everybody, thanks for hanging around for this episode of The Bench. Hey, somebody had asked me about this pickup truck that I did for my Four Horsemen diorama. They wanted to get a little closer look at it and see kind of some of the stuff I'd done to it, because I had used that iron paint. And then I also did some dry mud splashings on it and put a black bed liner, painted the taillights, all the little handles. I did the interior in light gray and dark gray, which is what my late stepfather's truck had, and his was this body style. I used a brown Sharpie to kind of create a rust effect on the rims, because these rims, they were prone to corrosion. Anyway, moving past that into the, shall we say, what's coming up department. Of course, I have the Anglia, which is the February Three Blind Mice build, and I need to start on that. So if you're going to join us for that, well, I'll see you next month. And then Hot Wheels came out with this really neat, it's a Brazilian Dodge Charger, and it's actually based on the A body, which is the Dodge Dart. And so I picked one of those up because I thought it was kind of interesting, and I'm going to be doing something with it I haven't quite figured out yet. And then I had somebody at one of my live feeds ask me about cleaning my airbrush, and I told him, I don't know, it seems like I can do it in about 5 minutes. So to close out the bench, for those of you that are interested, I'm going to clean my airbrush.